Well, hello, everybody. I'm on time today. Yay. Welcome to my live stream. Today, I have Alex from Beer and Vinyl. So say hi to everybody, Alex.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. Steph, thanks for having me. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on my stream. I know you participate in some of my streams, and it's been nice to finally get to meet you in person and chat a little bit. And just as we wait for people to show up, I'm going to ask you maybe to introduce yourself. But before I do that, if you guys haven't already followed him, because I know a lot of people that follow me follow Alex as well, you can go into the description box of the live stream and you can find out how to check out his YouTube channel and hopefully subscribe to him, because he's super awesome and a really nice guy. And I think you will dig his channel. So Alex, tell everybody where you're from.
Yeah, so I am in Columbus, Ohio. So from Ohio originally, have spent most of my life in Ohio, but I've been here in the capital for the last 5 years. And if there are any like sports people out there, it's a very happy city right now because of the national championship Buckeyes. So people are very happy around here, which is not normal. But yeah, so it's been interesting. We were talking a little bit like the Ohio thing. I've just now in my like collecting and hobbies and stuff have wanted to really dig into like Ohio music more because it is my home, and I want to get into like the history and all that different stuff. So yeah, I am a proud Ohio boy.
Very cool. Yeah, I've never been to Ohio, but two of my favorite bands, Devo and the Pretenders, or Chrissie Hynde from the Pretenders. Not all of them, but she's from Ohio. And yeah, so that's pretty exciting. And we'll talk about a little bit more about that later, because I've found some really some bands I didn't even know were from Ohio that are, and there's just a lot of great music from Ohio. So we already have people joining.
Yeah.
We got Chris is here and Marcia. Hi. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, Marcia.
This afternoon, wherever you are. Oh, so Chris used to live in Columbus. I got to get my glasses on so I can read these comments.
Yeah. The bifocals out.
Yeah. And so let's see here.
That's funny.
What are we talking about today? Marcia says, Prague or Coal Mine Records, LOL. So you might get that joke.
Yeah. Well, Marcia and I go way back. Marcia's a good friend of mine, and she knows that those are my two primary music obsessions, are old school Prague and Coal Mine Records, which is an independent label out of Ohio that focuses on new sounds of soul and funk. So, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I usually ask where everybody's from. I know where Chris is from. I think he's from North Carolina-ish. I don't know. I think so. And is Marcia from Akron or?
No. So both Devo and Chrissie Hynde are from Akron.
Oh, from Akron. Yeah. Okay. So where are you from? Where are you watching from today, Marcia?
So I gotta like fill in Marcia. I know like Marcia's whole biography. So like I have her,
Cool.
Like she's coming from here. Yeah, she's never heard that, sure.
So yeah, okay, let's go ahead. We're waiting, and I'll pull up some. Let's just go right into the great bands from. Okay, so Chris lives in West Virginia, and Marcia, you're from Orlando. Very cool. How's the weather in Orlando? We've been having like some really funky, like I heard it was really getting like snowing somewhere in Florida. I thought that was the most bizarre thing I saw on the news.
Oh yeah, the beaches were covered.
Yeah, like what the heck? It's still not snowing here in California, but it has been a little bit chilly. It was a little bit drizzly this morning.
Are you north or south? NorCal or SoCal?
So I'm central. It's kind of weird. I'm like exactly halfway between Los Angeles and halfway between San Francisco. Yeah. So right in the middle along the coast. So yeah, kind of over. I don't know if anyone watched the soap opera Santa Barbara, but
sure.
Yeah, close to Santa Barbara. It's basically about 250 miles to San Francisco, 250 miles to LA. So it's a great place if you like to see shows.
So you're a Valley girl, right? Is that what they would say?
Well, originally, yeah, I'm from the San Fernando Valley. Yeah, so I'm from, I'm a Valley.
You are a Valley girl.
Yeah. But let's see here. Yeah, I moved away like in the early 90s, so I haven't lived there for quite a while, but I spent a lot of time living up north. Santa Barbara was my favorite soap opera when I was in high school. Oh, well, you know what? Days of Our Lives was my favorite one. But yeah, Santa Barbara, it's where all the rich people live, but it's really expensive to live where I live. It's like outrageous. It's probably one of the most expensive places to live in California. And which is not cool because I'm not rich.
Unfortunately.
All right, so let's see. Great bands from Ohio. All right. The Black Keys.
Yeah.
So I'm not like the biggest fan of the Black Keys. But they are a good band, I'd say.
I would say, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not a huge, I appreciate what they've done and like I have great respect for what they do. And they are probably arguably the biggest band right now, or over the last, 20 years now out of Ohio. But I've never been, I've a handful of their records, but I've never been super crazy about the Black Keys.
Let's see. I knew they're hugely popular, but I don't know anything by the Black Keys. Of course, Devo, I love them. And as Marcia said, they came from Akron. And then here we go. The Smashing Pumpkins, while primarily associated with Chicago, frontman Billy Corgan is from Elk Grove Village, Ohio.
Interesting.
Yeah, didn't know that. The Smashing Pumpkins were kind of like my era of music when I was in high school and a young woman. They were super popular.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, there's some really cool stuff here. Raging Fire. Okay, I don't know anything about Raging Fire. Do you?
Raging Fire? No.
It says they're a newer indie rock band blending alternative and pop. So maybe we'll have to make a note to check them out. All right, let's get into some punk rock music here.
That's right.
So the Dead Boys.
The Dead Boys.
Well, my boy Steve Baders, he was in Lord's New Church, and I don't know if you've ever heard them, but they're really awesome. And the Dead Boys are pretty cool. Yeah. And I like Steve Baders' solo stuff.
Yeah, Disconnected, that record he has is super good because there's a bit of a connection with an Ohio band. I'll show that. It's probably like my favorite Ohio band of all time. But there's a connection to Steve Baders. So yeah, I mean, because what Dead Boys, at least when they started, I mean that what is it, young, loud and snotty or whatever, that their debut was 77, and so it was. I mean, it was kind of before, like it was one of those originators of U.S. punk, at least.
Right.
And so it's almost like one of the originals out of Ohio, which is really cool.
Well, I never got a chance to see Steve Baders, or sometimes he's called Steve Bader and sometimes he's called Steve Baders. But I'm a big fan of Lord's New Church, and I did get a chance to see the Dead Boys were touring, I don't know, about 5-6 years ago, and they played locally. It's just some like hole in the wall with their new singer, and it was great. Cheetah Chrome was there. It was a shit show though. Like the singer was, I mean, like, I don't mean to be rude, but I could smell him on the stage, and he was something.
That's just punk rock, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't know, it's like I don't know if it's heroin or what it is, but it was bad. And then he was on the floor by the end of the night. But it was a good show.
It was a great show.
But hopefully that guy. And then I was actually scheduled to do because I DJ, and I sometimes I will just volunteer if there's a band I like to show up and DJ the show, and I'll do it for free just because I just love the band, and it's like an honor for me to play music before their sets or whatever. But they apparently, like, there was some agreement and there was some major drama going on, and they didn't get enough money up front, or something happened, and they were scheduled to do this show. There was all these people there at the venue, which was a bowling alley, right? It was a pizza place in a bowling alley. I lugged in all my gear, set it all up. They show up. I see the back door open. They're all there. I'm like, oh, cool. The Dead Boys are here. And they left. There was some kind of argument, and they took off, and all the people that showed up and bought tickets had to get refunded. And it was I've never seen that happen, but it was bad. So anyways, okay. I don't enough gossip and shit talking. I really like the original lineup of the Dead Boys, super cool. And Steve Bader's solo stuff, I have like almost every one of his CDs. And Disconnected is one of my favorite. And what I like about him is like how he incorporates like the 60s kind of sound, and he covers 60 songs, and it's super cool.
I should have grabbed the record. I'll show this though, because the reason that is so important. So my favorite Ohio band, it's one of my favorite bands of all time. You know, it's funny, Marcia made the joke about prog earlier, which is true. I love prog, but my other kind of favorite genre is power pop. So starting obviously with the British invasion stuff of the 60s, but really being pretty popular in the early to mid 70s. And my favorite Ohio band is this band Blue Ash.
Cool. I've never heard of them, but that's awesome.
They're from Youngstown, although it's funny, Blue Ash itself is a city outside of Cincinnati. So a lot of people think they're called Blue Ash because they're from Blue Ash. They're not. The story goes is that they were on their way driving from Youngstown to Nashville to record demos, which would end up being on this record. And they were trying to figure out a name for their band. And they said, forget it. Whatever the next exit is of the city that we see, like that's going to be the name of the band. And the next exit is Blue Ash. And so that was, I guess that was I-71, going to Cincinnati. So, but what's cool about this and about the Stiv thing is that this gentleman right here with the fancy mustache, his name is Frank Sessage. And I got the chance to interview him on my channel several months ago. But after Blue Ash, him and Stiv Baders were childhood friends.
Oh, and interesting.
So, after Blue Ash, they released 2 records and then they were done. So just very kind of victims of like the music industry and the business. But then Frank connected with Stiv, and Frank is all over the Disconnected record, co-wrote a lot of the songs. He's playing all over it. And so this is like a huge power pop record. And so the idea was that Stiv went to Frank and said, hey, like, I know I'm a punk guy, but I really like this sort of like 60s, 70s, like accessible pop sound. Could you write these songs with me? And so, the cool connection is that Frank is all over that Disconnected record because him and Stiv go way back. So, yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I had no idea. I do have those CDs, so I'll have to pull them out and look at the liner notes and check that out, because I was like, I like the Dead Boys. They weren't my favorite. I really am a big fan of like all the bands that went to the New York scene and everything. And so I collected that, but I didn't connect the two between Lord's New Church till I looked, who the members were. And of course, Brian James from The Damned was in Lord's New Church, and all these cool guys. And so I was like such a fan of the Lords, I started buying the Stiv solo stuff, and I'm like, this is so different, but it's really good. And it's just really, the songs are great. Like they're really, I'm surprised it's not more popular than it is, but cool facts. I will go check out those liner notes. So Marcia said, isn't Trent Reznor from Ohio? Yeah. So there's another one of my favorite bands, 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor he's on the list here. So yes, that's very cool. And let's see. So Rocket from the Tombs, apparently
another punk band,
the Heartbreakers. I'm not sure which members of the Heartbreakers are. Let's see. Metal, Skeleton Witch. Do you know them?
No, it's a great metal band name though.
It says they're a thrash metal band from Athens, Ohio.
Athens is
Perubu
home to
is
OU, so yeah.
apparently Perubu is.
Periubu is, yep.
Yeah. And then Bones Thugs in Harmony.
Bone Thugs and Harmony, that's right. Cleveland Zone, yep.
Hip Hop and Kid Cudi.
I didn't know Kid
from
Cudi was from Ohio.
Yeah, and I don't even like know those two, but I will have to get with the program.
Oh, you know Bone Thugs because you've heard the Crossroads. That was like the Crossroads was everywhere in like 96, 97. That's like one of those big hits that you're like, oh, I've definitely heard this song, but I didn't know it was Bone Thugs. Now, what's funny about Bone Thugs, they're like the only like sort of I don't want to say the only, but like they're the hip hop group for me that I really, really like. Because to me, they blended this sort of like super dark, like they called it like gothic hip hop, which I think is so funny. It's like it's very, very like dark and kind of theatrical and doomy. But and very clearly like they were from like the hood of Cleveland. And they blended it so well with like great like R&B like vocal harmonies and melodies. So to me, it was like no other group did it as well of them, of like cool old school 90s hip hop mixed with just amazing singers and just great hooks.
I don't know him. I'll definitely check it out, but I don't know. But it sounds like something I would like for sure.
Right on, yeah.
All right, we got Mark's here. Hi, Mark. And Stephen Schmee, the CD junkie. I love him. He's so great. Like he knows so much about music. Like he makes so many videos about bands I want to watch. I don't have enough time.
Yeah, Stephen's the best.
Yeah, so Mark's here and he says he's confused. He said, "Hi, Stephen." Does he think he's tuning into Stephen Westman's channel?
Right. You just don't. Yeah, it could be. See, this is yeah.
Well, my folks, I am not an audiophile.
In fact, she puts like her fingerprints all over the vinyl. You know.
I do. I touch the vinyl. Which most vinyl DJs do. You have to touch the vinyl. Yep. So, all right. So we've gone through the great bands of Ohio. And let's see here. I have a few questions for you, but you were going to show some records, weren't you?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I got stuff to show always. Yeah, I mean, and there's a handful of other, artists that Ohio calls our own. It is funny though how much Akron of all places was home to so many of these great artists like Chrissy Hind, like Devo. There's a whole, I don't know enough about it, unfortunately, because it's not my thing usually, but Akron was like kind of like the third like punk home. Like you had like London, you had New York, and then there was like a whole kind of thing going on in Akron. In terms of some pretty big alternative bands, though, I mean, the two big ones from Dayton are the Breeders, and Guided by Voices is also from Dayton.
Yeah, the Breeders are awesome.
Yeah, and Kim Deal would go on to join, or she was a member of oh gosh, why can't I think of the name? They're New York band. The Pixies. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I've seen the Pixies play a couple times. They're freaking awesome. Yeah, they're really good.
And her solo album that she released last year was outstanding. So that's
really? Oh, I'll have to check it out. Yeah. Isn't she? I think she might be. She has a sister, or she's a twin, or something. Is what I heard about her.
She could be.
Yeah, I can look that up. I could be wrong. I bet Stephen Schmee knows.
He knows everything.
Someone will tell us. That's why we have people watching to help us.
So that's a great segue because I showed the Blue Ash record, and since Stephen Schmee is here and he knows everything, he is the CD junkie. But Stephen is he's a power pop guy too. I go to Stephen for all things power pop, and so I know he knows about Blue Ash. But that's like my favorite, or one of my favorite genres. So two of my favorites. Another one of my favorite bands of all time, and just I think a perfect record that I love so much is Straight Up by Badfinger. Just such a tragic story. but one of the first bands signed to the Beatles Apple label. They kind of came out again in the late 60s, early 70s, and people thought they were the Beatles, kind of, although it doesn't really match for me. But I absolutely love Badfinger. Love this album a lot. One of my favorites. And then
so Marsha confirmed that. Marsha confirmed that Kim and Kelly Deal are the Breeders. They're twin sisters.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the Breeders are the twin sisters.
Yeah.
Kim and Kelly.
They're one of those bands that I don't. It sounds terrible. Like I don't. That's not a particular style of music that I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
See, that's as you know, Steph. That's the diplomatic way of saying you don't like something, right?
Sure.
Just be like, that is not the style I gravitate towards.
Okay.
And that's okay. But like, they're huge, and I think they're brilliant, and so I'm like, I want to be a fan.
Yeah.
So it just takes some time.
Yeah, I mean, that was really popular when I was, in high school. Like the Breeders were super popular. It was all over MTV. Yeah. Yeah, Chris, that's the band that does Cannonball, the Breeders, the two Deal sisters. And I'm sorry, I always am so bad with like the members of the backup band. It's like I always seem to remember like whoever I think's the cutest or the lead singer in the band, and I'm awful with that. But yeah, the Breeders are pretty cool. But that's okay, it's like we all have different tastes, and it's okay to not like something or care for something. There's a lot of stuff I see on the VC and it's super popular, and I just can't get into it either. And there's a lot of stuff that people think is horrible, and I just love it. So
well, I think the other thing too is that
it's all subjective. Yeah,
it is, and I'm sure that you like things now that you didn't like 5 or 10 years ago. It's like for me.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
It changes all the time.
Yep. And that's why I try always keep an open mind, and like with going through my record collection, there's stuff that like I really enjoyed when I was a young woman, and I've kind of outgrown it, and I know it's cool or it's valuable, but I just don't listen to it, and it's just I just don't ever know if I'll get back into it again. So sometimes it's kind of painful to part with stuff like that, but it's like, well, why do I have it if I don't listen to it?
Right.
We all go through different stages with music, and our taste change and things. So
for sure. I want to, if you could highlight Steven's comment about Badfinger's Wish You Were Here.
Hold on. Let me pull it up here. So we've got, he's talking about Guided by Voices here. And let me get back to his, here we go. So he said he can't get into Guided by Voices. I can't either, Steven.
Yeah.
But okay, so here's his other comment here.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, Steve, because I know you and I are both huge Badfinger fans. I didn't know that this was your favorite album of all time, but I just so happen to have it sitting here because I'm a collector of this album specifically, and that is a promo copy of it. So it was cool to get this. So I guess this is an original US promo, and I do have an original UK of it, which is just nerdy, smug record collector stuff, but that's why we do it, right?
Yeah, it's funny. We go onto these channels to talk about music, and apparently I offended someone by talking about Richard Hell and the Voidoids. The guy commented that I talked about the record for 6 minutes.
Not 6 minutes.
Yeah, I was like 6. Well, if I knew that was going to offend you, I would have talked about it for 10. And now I'm actually thinking about making a whole video about that album and going into the history of every single member of the band.
Yeah, you have to now. That is so funny.
Just to be an asshole, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. All right, so we've gotten into that. Oh, I was going to ask you too. So if you were listening to Badfinger and you were alone on a Friday night, what beer would you pair?
You're actually explaining my Friday night all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Oh, and what made you decide to come up with the channel Beer and Vinyl, actually?
So my two favorite food groups. No, I don't know. It's kind of funny because a lot of people are like, "Wow, what a great name," as if it's like this like poetic, brilliant thing.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and I think this is probably true for most people who do the YouTube thing, is like you sit there and you're like, "Oh, sure, like I'll join YouTube," and then they're like, "Well, what do you want your channel name to be?"
Oh yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, well, I never really thought about it that way." And so I was just like, my original idea was exactly what we were talking about before. My original idea was doing album and beer pairings, right? So like, like it's a Friday night and I'm playing the Dead Boys. Like, what kind of, raunchy, like, beer am I going to get into? So that was the original plan. And then it sort of became like, no, like, I just like to drink beer and listen to records. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of obvious. So
Two and
yeah,
two go together.
yeah. And it's still the people the fact it was available, like the URL was available too, like youtube.com/beer and vinyl.
I'm shocked, actually.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. So I just use my name, but then it's like, it's kind of hard. There's a lot of people with my name, and like, there's like a stripper in Las Vegas and just all these random people that show up, before my channel. But then it's like, I also have, that's like my DJ business name. So like, I figure I just want to encompass the whole thing, and then I'm just like, oh, was this a mistake? If people see my videos, are they going to still hire me for gigs?
Right? You're like, did you see she talks about a record for 6 minutes?
You're
like,
know.
You can't hire
6
her.
minutes? Yeah. They're like, if I hire her for my wedding, is she going to play the Dead Boys?
Right. I hope. Well, and I think it does help that like you have a very like generic name in terms of like stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because the other side is I think a lot of people don't want to use their real name on YouTube because then there's, as I'm sure there's a lot of creeps out there that are like trying to Google where people, the whole thing. So for me, I just want people because I had, and I'm sure people could figure it out, but I had like my first and last name in my bio or my description or whatever for a while. And then I was like, you're going to make some kind of dumb self-deprecating joke. And like, somehow it's going to get back to like, your mom or somebody or like your employer, like somebody's going to do something. And I don't want to put anybody through that. So,
yeah. Well, that's good thinking, I guess. But yeah, I think you're fine. I think your channel's safe. Okay, so let's catch up on comments here. Oh, the Ohio Players. We didn't mention that.
Oh yeah.
What band from Ohio did Jazz Clown clone? Do you know that? I had the cassette and it was very cool. I have no idea. Let's see. I'm just posting comments here.
Huh.
I just did so Stephen Schmee, I just did a 24-minute video about a group called the Knits and their catalog. I'm always on Overkill when talking about music. Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, as a music fan, that's what I like. I like the deep dives. I want to know like what their favorite ice cream was when they were a kid, like where they went to school, what their influences were. Like, I'm into that. That's cool. Yeah. That's why I like Stephen Schmee does like the deep dives into to the stuff. But like, that's a lot of research, Stephen. So kudos to you.
That's what I like too about your videos too, Steph, is like, it's not like when you're doing like your CD purge or like just going through like stuff in your collection. Like, it's not just like, here's this CD, it's pretty good, let's see what else we got. Like, no, like I think people who tune into that want to hear you talk about the music, right? Like, that's what I think is the point.
Well, I mean, thank you. And I try, but sometimes it's like, I don't even remember, or like, I'm getting so like, I'm middle-aged and my brain doesn't even remember anymore. And I just kind of have to revisit and do a little bit of research to remember. But it's like, I try to add some kind of factual information. But yeah, I mean, I always like to hear everybody's stories behind their music and a little bit of facts and stuff. And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently some people aren't into that, but that's okay.
It's all right.
Okay, let's see. All these great comments, and I'm trying to catch up here. So we got a comment from Harry. Hi, Harry. I don't know if we've said hello to you yet, but you want to read that one? Can you read that one?
I can read that one. Drinking beer and listening to records. Do you also dance if nobody's watching? Just asking. I dance pretending like everybody's watching. You know, it's like they need to experience it as much as anybody else does. So yeah.
Do you actually dance?
I mean,
so if you were out at a dance club, would you dance?
I don't even know what a dance club is. Those don't
Really?
exist anymore. No.
Oh yeah.
No, maybe it depends. It depends on the vibe and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I'm kind of maybe from a different era because like when I was a teenager, like, you know, we would go, you know, once I got to be 21 or 18, we had these clubs, these dance clubs, and you would go and they would have, you know, even then in the 90s, it was like they'd have 80s nights or 70s nights or whatever. And it was really fun. But yeah, it just seems like that's not really so much a thing anymore at a lot of places. But
sure.
Those are some of my favorite gigs to do, like dance nights. But usually, you know, yeah. So here's something funky. I got invited, or I got asked to give a quote for a DJ event. It's a dance party, and it was a millennial throwback 90s, early 2000s dance party.
That's my generation right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I gave her a quote. It was a fundraiser. It was going to be a ladies' night themed event, but she wrote me back and she said, well, we're going to have to hold off because I hear that there's this guy in San Diego. He's a lawyer and he's been suing all these people because they're throwing women themed events and they think that it's, you know, not fair. And so all these ladies trying to do these fundraisers are getting sued for doing ladies nights. I'm like, what the hell? Well, I thought the whole point of that was to get more ladies in, you know, and have guys there too. But it's like, apparently that's a thing now. Ladies themed events are getting targeted. And I'm like, that's shitty, especially as someone that I kind of founded almost 10 years ago, like a female DJ collective, because I didn't think there were enough lady DJs. But I'm like, shoot, am I going to get sued because I'm trying to have a female DJ collective? So anyway, I just thought that was funky. Yeah, I mean, it's like, everyone's just like sue happy. I'm like, crazy.
Yeah,
let's not get so uptight here. Like, let's you know, chill out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, all right. So let's see. Do you have any more records you want to show?
Sure. Well, I mean, I got like 100 records over here. I just pulled a bunch. So
okay, cool.
Well, I'll say this because going back to Marcia's point earlier, you know, my other sort of this has a huge Ohio connection, although most of the artists are not Ohio, but it's a huge connection, and that is, as I said before, the record label Coal Mine Records, and they operate out of Loveland, Ohio, which is a little bit northeast of Cincinnati. But Coal Mine, they again sort of specialize in sort of the new sounds of funk and soul. So for people who you know, grew up listening to a lot of these more old school funk soul artists, whether that is bands like the Ohio Players or Booker T and the MDs, or, you know, Marvin Gaye, any of these kind of old school soul and funk people, Coal Mine really specializes in newer artists that are sort of embodying that style. And for me, what they've been super important with is I kind of got connected with them simply because of the Ohio thing first, where I was like, I just think it's so cool that this Ohio label is doing these things. And then when I started going through the artists and listening to the records and the music, it got me interested in soul and funk and some R&B and that type of stuff. And so it was awesome. I have a ton of them. I'm showing this one because these are their comps that are called Soul Slabs. So These are compilations from a whole bunch of their artists, and I think they have 3 or 4 of them now. So I always say if people are interested in, this is not a sales pitch, but if people are interested in coal mine records and you don't know where to start, I always recommend starting with their compilations, Soul Slabs, because you'll be able to find something that you really like and then say, oh, it's that band or it's that artist. Now I'm going to go kind of dig into that well. So yeah, and I just think it's so cool that they're, again, Ohio based, which is really cool.
Very cool. Yeah, I really like. I'm really into R&B music. I like Prince is one of my favorite artists, and all the bands surrounding that era, like The Time and Tina Marie, and Rick James and all those. Like, I'm really into that kind of stuff. I don't have a lot of it on vinyl because it's around here. It's difficult to find on vinyl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that comp, but that's great. That's a great way also to discover new bands too, because I'm really horrible with listening to new music. So like sometimes like I ordered a new record. I got this great little CD sampler from Merge Records, and they just threw it in with the album that I bought. And I thought, how great. Like I would have never known about these bands. I probably wouldn't have had the insight to go and search them out or whatever. And I found a bunch of bands I actually like. And one thing that's good about XM radio, to get on that bandwagon, I can't remember the name of the channel, but I used to have the XM radio in my car. And there was one channel that just really played a lot of great new stuff. And I heard a lot of great new stuff actually from Rodney on the Rock, who had a show on there, who, is the old classic karaoke DJ and, very famous for his radio show or whatever. But he's pretty good about finding like new alternative and punk bands and playing them on his show on XM. So
yeah,
very
that's awesome.
Cool. So let's see. Somebody said hello to you. Prog Hat's here. Hi, Prog Hat.
Hey, Edward.
And let's see. Mark Boyd said, "Ladies' night is canceled." Yeah, sorry, ladies, you're canceled. Chris Hell, the band that the band that is called The Toll was from Ohio. There's 2 albums that I know of, but there might be more. I'm not sure who that is.
Huh.
Let's see.
Well, they're from Columbus.
Okay.
Huh. I'll check that out.
Oh, stream WFMU. Okay, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'll check that out. I got my little notepad here. I like listening to like different channels that just kind of, you have the DJs picking out the great new stuff for you. And that's just kind of a lazy way to do it.
Yeah.
Just because buying stuff new is so expensive. It's just kind of,
oh my God. Yeah.
All right.
One of the things I want to show too, given what's, I guess sort of has gone down over the last several weeks, not politically related. That sounded weird, but I am trying to find where it went. Here it is. Okay. So I guess maybe last week we lost one of my favorite directors, David Lynch, who passed away. My favorite TV show of all
shit. Did he pass away?
Yes.
He died last week? Oh gosh.
Yeah. I know the news is probably.
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah, I had no idea.
But my favorite TV show of all time is Twin Peaks.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I love Twin Peaks to death. Like, there's never been a show that has just like, I don't even know how to explain it, right? Like it's otherworldly and its impact on me. But so I, of course, after he passed, I was playing the soundtrack a lot. I'm not a soundtrack person, but for me, I'm like Twin Peaks, I need to have. But the real thing I think that I've been enjoying big time is so sort of the history is with the Twin Peaks music. David Lynch, a lot of it, and then Angelo Badalamenti I
had the cassette of the Twin Peaks cassette.
Oh, nice. So they had been partners for a few years. They worked together on the Blue Velvet soundtrack. But specifically, the artist, the singer that they worked with, both for Blue Velvet and for Twin Peaks, her name was Julie Cruz.
Right. Yeah. Mark just mentioned that. Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh, okay. Yes.
You got this. Oh, yeah. You got a Julie. Cool. Very cool.
This record, this is her debut, Floating Into the Night. This came out in 1988 or 89.
Yeah.
Which includes sort of like the vocal version of what became the Twin Peaks theme.
Sure.
Julie Cruz was also the Roadhouse singer in Twin Peaks. So the songs that are being sung in the Roadhouse, that is actually her in her songs. This is, I cannot explain how much I love this record and how cool and weird and out there this record is. And so after the passing of David Lynch, I listened to this record a ton just because, and her story, Julie Cruz's story, is really sad too. So I don't know if it was I don't know if it was like a good mental health day, but sometimes you just have to feel these things, right? Like you're just like, I got to feel this. So
Very, like last week, I don't think I watched the news at all, and that's too bad. Like I would have been. That sucks. I mean, I remember I took some film classes in college, and I did like a film segmentation on Blue Velvet, and I think that's probably one of my favorite movies. But in Eraserhead, like we all watch those like as teenagers, and go to the video store and get all those weird movies and watch them. But yeah, he was something else. He had like really great style and Julie Cruz. Yeah, I know a lot of people that she's such an underground, like, cult person.
It was really funny. I was a friend of mine. We were both kind of in this, oh man, like, David Lynch died. Like we should watch something, right? Like let's have a movie night. Like let's watch Blue Velvet. Let's watch Eraserhead. And neither of those movies are very, they're not normal. And they're also not really like feel good movies either.
Yeah.
and so it was me, him and his girlfriend. And like, she was like, guys, like, I don't know if I can watch like Eraserhead right now. Like, I don't know if I'm in that space for a movie like that.
Yeah.
So have you ever seen his version of Dune?
No.
So he did, I think in 1984, like one of the original adaptations of Dune. And it is like Mark just jumped in. It is it might be the worst movie of all time. So much so that he has like, David Lynch like kind of like removed his name from a lot of the stuff because it was like him doing like a sci-fi movie, and it is so bad, but of course has like developed this big cult following now. And it's like, so like we watched it to like laugh and cry. And it's just so terrible and so unlike anything. It's just so funny. So yeah, that was our David Lynch movie night. Was watching Dune, which is not only his worst movie, one of the worst movies ever. So yeah.
I can't do Eraserhead. Like as far as like my mental health goes, there's only so much stuff I could handle that back when I was a teenager, but it's like, I just can't, there's certain stuff I can't watch anymore. Like,
and yes, it does star Sting.
Yeah. But yeah, he was definitely an odd character, and he was, had just very unique. For sure. So Marsha was saying that Julie Cruz was in the B-52s for a little bit. I had no idea about that. Do you have any more info about that, Marsha?
I think I read that maybe. But I think I saw that. I don't have a ton of other info on it. Although I do think there's a story about, I believe, I don't know, was she maybe married to one of the members?
I don't know. Let me look.
There's some kind of connection there.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to look it up if you want to talk about something while I'm looking it up.
Sure.
Let's see here. sometimes I get on these tangents and I'll listen to a song and I'll be like, oh, that's a really interesting person. And then I just go like and read all this information about one particular person. I think I did that the other day with like Mink DeVille it was just like a random thing. And I was like, gosh, what was the story? I was like, he was very handsome. And then I was like, I just saw all these because there's a book called Please Kill Me, which is like a classic punk rock book. They have these great photos in there. And I saw him with like his wife and I'm like, God, what an interesting character she looked to be. And so I just like went on this whole bandwagon where I was like, this is what I do on a Friday night, by the way, when I'm not dancing, like no one's watching. I'm just, doing these odd research things.
Yeah. You go down the rabbit holes. Yeah.
Yeah. Rabbit hole is fun sometimes. And that's how you become an expert.
Right. Then you can just whip out these fun facts and people are like, wait, really? And you're like, yes. This is my worthless knowledge that pays off, right?
Yeah. Let's see. The B-52s, here's on YouTube, B-52s Rome Live with Julie Cruz. In August 2013, that was posted. Let's see. She died in 2022 here. So she died pretty young. It says she was in the B-52s from 1992 to 1994. Which role she played in there, I don't know. I'm guessing maybe she sang.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It said that interesting. Okay, well, before I get into the dark story of Julie Cruz, we'll let you all look that up.
Right.
We'll keep it light this morning.
Yes. That was what I was thinking of I remember reading this though, was that as she passed, they played B-52's Rome during her passing. It was very, let's bring this back. Let's bring us back more up to happiness here. And
I hear that Kate Pearson's doing all kinds of new stuff. She's doing all kinds of new music, and she's got new music out, and she's got her own YouTube channel, and she's got some pretty cool stuff going on. And she's kind of like at least here in California, especially in Southern California, like the Smiths and Morrissey is super popular, along with the B-52s and Kate Pearson. She's super popular in SoCal. And so she's got some pretty cool, like retro stuff out. She's got like a music video that just came out. So she's still doing music.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so, I don't know if Cindy left the B-52s. I've never seen them live. So Alex, do you see a lot of shows, or are you planning on seeing any shows this upcoming year at all?
Yeah, I try to go to a lot of shows. I will say I'm in a great area with a ton of venues, and I'm close to a lot of them. So I was just at a show on this past Friday for a band called King Buffalo. They are kind of a new psychedelic space rock kind of stonery, quote unquote, type band. But in a very tiny venue. So that was a ton of fun. I mean, I try to go as many as I can afford, because they are very expensive, especially if you buy merch, all this kind of stuff. And I'm not really a merch buyer per se. I do have kind of an internal rule though, that if I go and see an artist on tour as a record collector, I feel I have to buy the record that they are touring in support of. That is like sort of that's my rule. So of course that adds on, because a lot of times like the record is more expensive than the ticket. But a great segue, because I pulled this record. I think I am making some assumptions about your music taste, but I feel like this is going to be in your wheelhouse. And I always cite this as the best concert I've ever went to. I went there as a fan, and I left there as like an obsession. I know Marsha is a huge fan of this artist as well, if she's out there. But that artist, of course, is Peter Gabriel.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw him, this was September of 2023, so maybe about a year and a half ago. now. And again, I went and I was like, oh, it'll be a good time. And I just saw that performance and my mind was blown. It was like, the live performance put him as like I'm a fan to like one of my favorites of all time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen him live. And I mean, I know him from like, you know, like I think probably I love his 80s stuff and everything. I think the only album I have with him is like Shock the Monkey or something, which is what like a great song. But I know that my mom and my dad, because my parents are from LA, and I remember they told me, my mom said, yeah, I talked about this in the last live stream. They went to a Genesis concert, and it was like the Carpet Crawlers song, and he rolled out. My mom's like, yeah, and he rolled out in a carpet. It was like,
oh yeah,
a crazy story. So yeah, I grew up kind of listening to a lot of that stuff, and my dad was always playing it on the turntable. He was always playing like Genesis and lots of prog and also cool stuff like Devo and Pretenders and things. But yeah, he's super awesome. I don't hear enough people talking about Peter Gabriel. You know, in the VC, I think, but he's amazing.
Yeah. And I think, and I'll say this too, this was, talking about quote unquote newer music, I guess, but this was the actual, record that he put out 2 years ago, called IO. And I loved this record. I still do. Like,
what a cool cover.
Like older, 72-year-old or however old he is. Stuff. I love this record to death. So, it's just one of those.
My
parents. It is kind of funny though. Like, I feel like a lot of people, if they are going to talk about him in like on YouTube, it is because there are people like me or your parents who are like prog nerds, and they just want to talk about the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway type stuff, right? Like they just want to or Foxtrot or Selling England by the Pound and all that kind of stuff. So
I was like, what? He was in Genesis? Like, I didn't know, because all I knew was like Genesis from the 80s with Phil Collins.
Right.
So I didn't even know,
And what blows my mind.
It wasn't cool to collect Genesis when I was, started collecting records. I was into new wave, that's what I thought was great. And that wasn't even popular then, because when I started collecting records, I was like, it was the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and everyone wanted like grunge and other things. So I was all like in Gary Newman, and they were like, what is this weird shit you're listening to?
And what I love, I think it's so wild about the Genesis story, right? Because I think a lot of people are coming in with like, wait, what do you mean Peter Gabriel was in Genesis, right? Genesis during their progressive years, right, of early 70s, it was like, they were playing like theaters, right? Like, okay, cool, like it's a theater show, maybe it seats 2,000, 2,500 people, maybe 3,000, something like that. And then you have somebody like, and now we have three sort of weird breakoffs where they went from this theater band to Peter Gabriel, who sells out arenas, to Phil Collins solo, who sells out arenas, to Genesis, who sells out stadiums. And so with all of them together, it was like, we'll sell out a theater. All of us separate and or some of us together, it's like we're selling out stadiums. And it's just kind of fun. That is a situation that seemed to have worked out for everyone. Right. Yeah,
it's a great situation. I agree. Kind of like the same with Van Halen and Sammy Hagar.
Right.
But I think David Lee Roth got the shit end of the stick.
Sure. Yeah. Well.
Well, I love David Lee Roth. I will never not love David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
So let's see. We're catching up on comments here. Mark Boyd, they did their first final tour, but they still played occasional gigs like residency in Vegas. They just don't do full tours anymore. Oh, and you know what? I was going to go back and see if I may not have this information. Okay. Yeah. So before, we're almost done here, but we're going to do a little bit of music history really quick. So on today, January 26th, let's see. Is there any famous information here? In 1970, John Lennon wrote and recorded Instant Karma. There's a lot of Beatles fans out there.
Yeah.
And in 1974, the Doobie Brothers opened their first European tour in London. And in 1966, Eric Burdon of the Animals sang lead vocals for Manfred Mann at a London concert. Oh, well, that's some really great trivia there. It must it must have been a slow day in music.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, it is Eddie Van Halen's birthday, I believe.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I think so, yeah. Because I remember he shared a birthday with my dad. So today would have been my dad's birthday, and it would have been Eddie's birthday. So yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Alex's dad, if he's watching.
That's right.
And let's see here. We got a lot of stuff going on here. Can you want to read that one?
Yeah. Don't give up. Dolly Parton declined the duet, so we got Kate Bush. I bet Dolly would have done it these days. I mean, I've never heard that, but I mean, I don't doubt that it's right. I don't think you can get better than a Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush duet, though. I think that is as artsy and fun as it gets.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's just so interesting. Like two singers, two female singers, and they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, I like both of them, obviously, but speaking of David Lee Roth, WEA is sending me a DLR CD box set of his solo albums for Warner's. I do unboxing video for the company. Oh, cool. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, that would be great to see that. I mean, you know, David Lee Roth. I mean, during that time era or whatever, there was nothing sexier than David Lee Roth. That's for sure. All right. So we got a few more minutes. Do you want to show another album before we say goodbye to our
sure? Let's see what else I have. Anything?
Human guest here.
Let's see if there's anything else fun worth sharing. Well, just because you're actually, I'll show both of these because we mentioned this earlier. These are just things I had laying around. But since we mentioned that you are technically, by definition, a Valley girl, we would be remiss if we didn't show at least some Frank Zappa. Now, granted, it's not. Awesome. Valley Girls is not on this record, but I have this one.
I have that one. Yeah, I have the one with Valley Girl.
Right. Yeah. What is that? Ship arriving too late to save a drowning witch.
Save a drowning witch.
With his daughter Moon Unit.
Moon Unit Zappa.
So yeah, oh my God. So yeah, we'll have to show some Frank Zappa, and then I guess to represent California, at least one of my favorite singer-songwriters of all time, and pulled this record. This is probably, I guess, tied for my favorite record of his. And I am a huge Warren Zevon fan.
Interesting.
He is my absolute favorite. So a lot of people will know Warren Zevon from Werewolves of London, which was on the record that came after this. But he is one of these artists that he is so much more than the song that everybody knows. In fact, my favorite song, I'll always say, and why I wanted to show up, my favorite song of all time, so it's saying a lot, favorite song of all time closes this record, and it is called Desperados Under the Eaves. And that is my favorite song of all time. That is like I will take that to the grave and back. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm writing all this down so I can take a listen to, because there's just so many bands and so little time. So I always like to take notes from all of the music experts I talk to.
Oh, sure.
On my live stream and all the people here in the chat. And super cool here. Okay, so we got, here we go. Stephen Schmees making a comment here. Let's see what he has to say.
Oh, yeah. Electro Asylum albums are tremendous. Yes, that's right. Incredible. Yeah.
So love the debut album the most is what he's saying.
Yep.
I know I'd like Zevon if I made the effort. Yeah, that's kind of like what I was saying. It's like so many great bands, so little time. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's what I've been trying to do. Like at work, like I will just I'll put on music and just listen to my headphones,
Mhm.
you know, just because I'm already working and I there's no excuse. I just put it in, and usually it takes me about 15 minutes to know if I'm going to like it or not
Yeah.
by scanning through, you know, and I try to
Yeah.
be open-minded too.
Yeah.
But I mean, some things, you know, you just can't get into, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're right, and he's pretty good too as well. So
Oh, for sure.
definitely that's what to check out.
Yeah. And you
So
can't like everything.
no,
You
but
know, it's
I mean,
impossible.
it's definitely, you know, it's worth trying it out. And I'm trying to kind of like open up my musical palette a little bit more
Mhm.
too as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to do.
Heck yeah.
Well, that was groovy. I'm hoping maybe at some point we can get more people and do a stream like with more people on it. Maybe that would
Yeah.
be too chaotic. Um, but if you're ever interested in doing another live stream again, that'd be great. And this was really fun, and it was really great to get a chance to meet you and get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
And thank you. And so you guys, I'm sure all these people are already following you, but if you're not, go follow him. And maybe we'll do it again soon if you have the time. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, this is great stuff. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm gonna set Alex free to enjoy the rest of his afternoon here. And thank you all for watching the live stream. And hopefully, you know, we'll be back soon and we'll do something else again soon, but no guarantees.
Awesome. Take care, y'all.
Bye, everybody.